You only need to know me. I will be the one.
やめておけ、泥の後だ。
俺を知ってるか。間違いではない。
So I'm going to be dropping another 2 videos in the future that collectively answer the mystery of Black Blades and what Oda has planned for Zoro, as well as his final fight in the series. This video would have been too long otherwise, so subscribe to stay updated for when those Zoro videos drop. I've been working on them for almost a year now, I think. Also hit that like button if you want to help get this video trending. But I think Oda did something between chapters 193 and 195 that aligns with Oda's tendency to hide future reveals within the words of the conversations between some of his characters, whether Luffy and his opponents or Zoro and his own opponents. In this case, the fight with Mr. One reveals some of what the future has in store for Zoro and with every fight since then, including the most recent fight with King the Wildfire during Wano and the raid on Onigashima. Oda has been progressively building up what Zoro will one day do. Unlock the power of a Black Blade, yes, but also the power to cut nothing at all, which we'll be addressing in this video. The power to cut nothing, believed to be the ability to truly extend or flow your will to the blade. And so if you want to cut something, you can, no matter what it is. And if you do not want your blade to cut something, your blade will not. The blade then understands its master's will, its wielder's will under every circumstance. A blade that cuts anything is not a true blade, and brings shame to the swordsman yet. I think this lesson passed down from Zoro's master Koshiro to him will go a little different than expected. That Zoro will interpret these words differently in a fight that is just around the corner. That Zoro, who as a fighter tends to resort to brute force all the time, entirely destroying his opponents, will be confronted by someone, finally, that requires a lot more grace. Now the fact that Zoro had to learn what King was before he could cut him, as he said in chapter 1032, what is he? What race is he from? That he had to solve the mystery of King's defenses or else he couldn't win. Although most of his victories attributed to his level up or power up with advanced conquerors. But strangely, Zoro could cut Kaido because he knew Kaido was a dragon. It was only after King revealed that he was a Lunarian and Zoro learned about the secret of his flame that King was ultimately defeated. The power to cut your enemy, if you understand them, if you can identify what they are and what their weakness is. To cut steel or iron, to cut stone or a mountain, to cut even fire. An ability that Dracul Mihawk, who is said to be clairvoyant, maybe with the best observation haki in the series, and an eye-related ability some think Zoro might unlock, to see past the tricks of an opponent that might make them difficult to cut. This is all something hinted at in the fight with Mr. One when Zoro was asked if he would cut Diamond next, to which Zoro responded that that would be such a waste, that cutting Diamond next would be a waste, almost as if the ability to cut anything could be put to better use. To truly test himself then, by one day cutting nothing at all. That's just one problem though. How do you cut nothing at all if you can't identify what you are cutting, if it doesn't truly exist? Given the recent emphasis on awakenings, I would expect more Devil Fruit users from here on out to show us what their awakened Devil Fruit powers can do. And among them, Shiryu of the Rain is a likely candidate. I would imagine Shiryu can turn not only himself and other things around him invisible, but maybe even make his own presence and the presence of those things around him invisible as well, entirely erasing his own existence and theirs. Shiryu's Devil Fruit, the Sukesuke no Mi, is a Paramecia type of Devil Fruit whose power when consumed makes the user a clear human or invisible man. The word clear is interesting in terms of the Devil Fruit being the clear fruit because we've so often seen Devil Fruit powers have more than one ability or application. And with experience as we've seen from Luffy, Kid, and Law during Wano, a Devil Fruit's true power can be discovered, or at least the limits of said power can be pushed to the brink. In the case of Shiryu, instead of just turning things invisible, what if he can clear or erase them as the clear fruit suggests, and make their very existence disappear entirely? Imagine Shiryu cutting something and it simply vanishes, gone, no longer there. We saw King the Wildfire coat his sword in fire with his Lunarian DNA. We know Fujitora can merge his gravity Devil Fruit powers with his sword. Maybe Shiryu can merge the clear fruit's powers with his own blade and disappear, erase from existence whatever he cuts. After all, the name of Shiryu's Devil Fruit, the Sukesuke no Mi, Suke is apparently also an anagram of Kesu, which means to erase, as in to erase the user's visual appearance. But again, just maybe Oda will take some creative liberty and apply the concept of erasing things in other ways, erasing others and erasing one's own presence or existence. What is interesting about this idea is when pre-time skip Shiryu helped Blackbeard escape Impel Down, we saw Shiryu had snuck up on the prison guards undetected before cutting them down. Mind you, these were security officers guarding a security room full of cameras that failed to notice Shiryu's presence, indicating not only his stealthy movements, but his speed as well. As a result, Shiryu has been described as having great stealth capabilities even before acquiring his Delphu powers. And we further see the results of this. Shiryu's natural talents combined with an invisibility devil fruit when he fought Gecko Moria. The main flaw of Shiryu's standard Delphu ability is that the user's presence can be briefly revealed if they are covered by something, such as water, salt, or blood, giving their opponent a chance to notice them. If the user gets too close to an opponent, they might get struck if the opponent gets in a lucky hit. The opponent may resort to other senses such as hearing or smelling in order to detect the invisible user. Additionally, invisible objects will instantly become visible once they are no longer in contact with the user, and the fruit's ability will also wear off for a few seconds if the user is hit by a powerful blow, presumably due to a loss of focus. And then there is also the issue of observation haki, which should be able to nullify the Clear fruit's abilities entirely. So to counteract the vulnerabilities, especially since Shiryu should be a more advanced user of the Suke no Mi than Absalom ever was, maybe Shiryu can permanently turn things invisible, at least until he is defeated. And as for the weakness of identifying him by tossing some liquid or some other substance on him, or by listening, smelling him, or sensing him with observation haki, as we saw from Sanji in the Queen fight when Queen blended in with his surroundings by mimicking Sanji's raid suit, and Sanji was still able to find and fight him despite Queen now being invisible. Maybe Shiryu will be able to completely disappear in a way that his scent, any sound he makes, his haki, his entire presence is gone. I think this would be really useful considering Zoro, like Luffy and others, can sense the presence of cursed blades, and it's likely Shiryu also has a cursed blade, so this would make him even easier to find. Sensing Shiryu's sword if it is cursed is one way around Shiryu's invisibility devil fruit, and so Oda needs to find a way to pressure Zoro, to put him at such a disadvantage that he is forced to learn something new, to learn one of the last secrets of swordsmanship that only a rare few can perform, the power to cut that which does not exist, the power to cut nothing at all, because Shiryu with his awakening could possibly become nothing, an incredibly broken ability that is actually similar to Tobi or Obito in Naruto Shippuden. Obito who could become intangible, kind of like some Logia, but in this case you would attack him and phase right through him, as if he wasn't really there. Shiryu would be similar, except maybe you could force him to rematerialize, or Shiryu himself could turn this awakened ability off and on whenever he needed to attack you. Zoro, when faced with opponents he cannot cut, sees it as an opportunity to ascend to the next level. He told this to Mr. 1 in chapter 193. In the conclusion of that chapter, Zoro saying by the end of the fight he'll be a man that can cut through iron, mirrors Zoro cutting fire on the rooftop of Onigashima after copying Kinemon's technique, and later cutting King the Wildfire's flame to defeat him. I would add that fire was possibly more challenging for Zoro to cut through because it's more fluid or gaseous than a solid material like steel, and so fire is approximate to wind in a way, and so air, not really there, or not as easy to cut as something that you can readily grab. I would imagine something intangible or non-existent would pose an even greater challenge, and Zoro's defeat of Shiryu ending with a similar line, that once he's done with Shiryu, he will be a man that can cut through nothing. The power to cut nothing, though, was revealed to us in the fight between Zoro and Mr. 1. In chapter 194, we see Zoro's master Koshiro tell Zoro to watch closely at a piece of paper as he swung his sword at it. Surprisingly, the paper was not cut. The end result was Koshiro cutting nothing. The paper was fine. The beauty of this is the intention behind the words. Cut nothing. Cutting nothing is still in a way cutting something, for that is what the swordsman intended to cut. The blade obeyed his will and cut that which he desired. Nothing. Yes, nothing maybe can be cut, and that was the instruction passed down to Zoro. That there are swordsmen in this world that can't cut anything, and then there are those that can cut everything. But then there are also those who can decide to cut nothing if they so choose. A blade is truly mastered when a balance is found between these two, nothing and everything. When a blade respects your will regardless. When a sword cuts only that which you wish it to cut, no matter how bloodthirsty or wild it might be, like Enma in the strongest sword, Mihawk's Black Blade Yoru. This leads us to an interesting contrast between Koshiro and Shimotsuki Kozaburo. Each has influenced Zoro in some way. Kozaburo believed the duty of a blade should be embraced. He was a man that was proud of designing killing machines, that his sword Enma, the masterpiece of his life, was designed to cut everything that stood in its path. Kozaburo tells Zoro that swords have a purpose, mainly as tools for taking lives, created to kill. That is why they are designed. Each sword has its own personality that the swordsman must learn in order to overcome it. Not everyone is worthy of wielding a blade. That is often why they call them cursed. That cursed swords are just famed swords that are feared by the weak, those that aren't strong enough to control the blade. That is why people call them cursed. On the other hand, Koshiro suggests another path, that a sword like the one that Kozaburo describes cannot truly be considered a sword, that a true sword knows restraint and cuts only what its master wishes it to cut. Even the notion of wielding a blade to protect others aligns with Shimotsuki Ryuma, whose black blade cut a dragon in the sky. Ryuma, who was considered a divine protector of Wano country and believed the secret of true strength lied in the fact that a battle is not measured by how much fame you gain from it, but by what you protected in the process. This contrast of ideals merits a discussion of what path Zoro will choose, one of violence or one of peace, one of destruction or one of grace. Something Mihawk spoke of when he first met Zoro, seemingly aligning himself with the thinking of Koshiro. As Mihawk told us, a sword without grace is no strong sword, and Koshiro's belief that a sword should be graceful enough to cut even nothing if the wielder so chooses. Swordsmanship is deliberate, performed with intention. Even the strongest Black Blade Yoru, a sword famed for knowing no restraint, listens to its master's will, almost as if they were one. The blade is an extension of you, and so a sword like Enma and Yoru gain grace when their will is bent to mirror your own. The concept of flowing will, the notion of conquering a blade. The secret behind the power to cut nothing, both figurative and literal. A contrast of ideals that would be perfect for someone like Shiryu, shown to be full of bloodlust, especially as Shiryu of the Rain has a cursed sword. I personally would love to see the tables flip like this, and Zoro becoming the graceful one for that encounter. Imagine Zoro struggling to identify Shiryu. Never before has he fought an enemy like this. Advanced conquerors, brute force, crazy explosive attacks. None of it works against a man that has disappeared entirely. One that cannot be seen or heard, not even felt, not even touched, not even cut. An enemy that isn't there, pushing Zoro to the brink, kind of like a ghost or the specter of death. The hallucination of a grim reaper that appeared before him on Onigashima as it fell. Imagine Zoro remembering Koshiro's words from his time at the dojo, about what the greatest of swordsmen are able to do. The breath of all things returns again, and Zoro can feel the breath of that which is there, but also that which isn't there. His heart beating like a drum as he returns to the place between worlds, the border of life and death, where he can see and feel things that are not truly there but in reality are there, in a way like the spirit world, like the specter of death he saw, the Grim Reaper that he saw after defeating King during Wano. In a way like the ghost of Dracula Mihawk's haunted castle, maybe hinting at Mihawk also having this ability to see that which is not truly there and to cut it. And so Zoro arriving at this barrier between life and death again, sensing that which is not truly there, might find himself no longer trying to cut you, but that thing which makes up the void, nothing. At this point, Shiryu's awakening would be no different than a Logia, a special paramecia that when awakened becomes nothing itself. But even a devil fruit of nothing still has a soul, and a breath that Zoro can feel and sense like the Grim Reaper. And Zoro might unlock the power to cut everything and nothing at all, even an invisible man, an enemy that doesn't exist. When you think about it, to truly cut anything means you must also be able to cut nothing. And it would seem that ever since he was a young child, not only becoming the world's strongest, but becoming a swordsman that can cut through everything, including nothing, even what is invisible, even what isn't there, has always been a part of Zoro's dream. The final test before he is ready to face Dracula Mihawk another time. But as usual, we will have to wait and see. And don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, share this with your friends, and subscribe. Also click the notification bell. And if you have a Twitter, feel free to give me a follow in there as well. As always, there's more to come. Until next time.
礼を言う。切り捨て。いいんだ。もう受けねえ。 久しぶりだ。俺はまだまだ強くなれる。
いいかい？世の中にはね、何も切らないことができる剣士がいるんだ。
何も切らないってのは呼吸を知れってことなのか。それが鋼鉄をも切る力。